What's wrong with the world, mama? Where is the love? I love that song from Blackeyed Peas, and it really captivates or really shows how things are today. And you'd be forgiven by, when you look around at the different world situation and so on, you'd think the whole world's gone crazy. It's totally turbulent and turmoil with all kinds of different things that are going on right now. At the time of recording, the war in Ukraine is still going on. There's a new offensive that started in Azerbaijan. There's stuff going on in South America, in Ecuador. There's in Congo and Gabon in Africa. There's the ongoing situation in Yemen and Syria and Libya and other places, throughout the world where they don't always get the publicity, unless something really major happens where it's devastating. Obviously at the moment the Azerbaijan situation, because of all the Armenians that are being forced to flee, it seems, 40-odd thousand, I think, at the last count, plus, and it's ongoing, and they seem to be being chased out of their territory that they've had for the last 10 years, and all kinds of things like that. And it's a horrible situation for them and for a lot of others, around this wonderful planet that we call home, this university of life, as I like to call it. There's a lot of things going on, and we don't always understand that. Why are these happening? Why are these taking place? All this turmoil, all this violence, all this death and destruction. And it's not just wars. There's violent crime is on the increase again, and there's obviously the situations with extreme weather conditions, or natural disasters, earthquakes and volcanoes and the like, the loss of life in these areas. And I've sat and pondered this many and many a time. So why are these things happening? What are we to learn from these? Are they happening for a reason, or is it just random? Is everything that we talk about in the spiritual field a lot of rubbish? That things aren't happening for a reason, that they're just random situation, and it's just nature taking its course as it does in other parts of the wild, in other situations where nature is faced with droughts or wildfires or great storm damage and things like that, because it's not just us humans that get affected. And this has been the situation on this planet since it was first brought into being, if you like. There's always been turbulence, there's always been devastation and destruction, there's been extinctions. We talk about the 6th mass extinction that's supposed to be coming up, as far as we're concerned, and obviously we're perplexed about it because it affects us. But in the past, the last one took out all the dinosaurs and things like that, and now there's ones before that took out a lot of the fauna, and changed the whole landscape of this planet, and changed the earth around so that seas became land and land became sea and all that kind of situation. At one time, the whole of Europe, where I am, the whole of Europe was a tropical forest. Can you think of that? Can you believe that? And it seems like we're going back that way. Either that, or we're going back to a desert, desert kind of situation, with all the climate situation and all the heat waves and extreme heat and so on have been getting during the summers. So there's a lot of turbulence going on. And it does make you think, is this just all natural, or is there a reason for it? Well, I feel there is a reason for it, and that's obviously why I'm jumping on and talking about it. Because when I've kind of looked at all the ones that have happened before, there was a reason, say, for the other 5 mass extinctions, because it made room for new growth. It made room for new species to come in and to flourish and become the dominant species, and they did their part. Whether that's animal species or insect, or whether that was fauna, or whether it was trees or whatever, they were still the dominant species at that time. And they've come in and had their effect. They've added their part, their story to this, to the history of this wonderful globe that we call home. And I guess with the dinosaurs as well, it would have been the same, because all the things that they did all the foraging and you know, the stuff that they've left behind. They've made their impact whilst they were here over the millions of years that they were here, and they were the dominant species. So they played their role, you know, just like elephants play their role, say, in the forest by stripping out trees. It allows new trees to grow. It's the same kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that the dinosaurs were doing, destroying maybe tracts of land or bringing down forests and stuff like that, but making way for new growth. So they played their part, and obviously through their being here, there's other sort of prehistoric animals and so on that went on and evolved and became birds, became lizards or other forms of life, and eventually that's led to us. You know, it made way for other species of life form to flourish. You know, and since the dinosaurs, obviously the primates and everything like that, you know, in Africa and other places, they flourished. And I was watching a little documentary, and I saw that a lot of the early sort of avian apes and monkeys and things like that, how did they get to places like from Africa to South America with a huge ocean or sea behind them? And apparently they did that by floating on rafts of vegetation. You know, and the weather conditions were favourable for that, and eventually they reached the other side, and that's why you've got monkeys and so on in the likes of South America and so on, and other primates. And I guess that's the same kind of situation that's happened all around this world, you know, not only just with the primates but also with human species, how they were able to get across huge divides, you know, water or gaps and things like that. They were innovative. They were able to move. They made rafts or they found ways to get across, climbed down and got across rivers and climbed back up again into, you know, the valleys and stuff. And they spread around the earth in that way, you know. And they reckon that there was twice at least in from Central Africa. There was what is it you call it, a diaspora or whatever, but exits, you know, sort of movements of a vast lot of what were then early human species, and they left Africa and moved on and ended up in Asia, in Europe and other places, the Americas and so on. And you know, and that's obviously, many scientists now believe that's where we originate. So now we're here, and we've been doing our part over the years through agriculture, changing the face of the earth in that way, you know, and also through the wars and destructions that we've caused over the years as well, over the centuries, and now we've been causing even more, you know, through all the different weapon technology that we have these days, and mass destruction that we can cause through that. But we have been stopped from using, so far anyway, nuclear weapons, which would have been totally detrimental to the whole earth. It would have laid waste to the whole planet, and it may have been, maybe not destroyed it completely, but would have set it back maybe billions of years, and it would have been a case of starting all over again. But I feel all these wars and things that are going on right now, they're serving to highlight areas where we still need to work on ourselves. You know, they're still highlighting areas where we need to take action, and so we can move forward in a much more positive and beneficial way, so we can work together with each other, so we can have peace amongst ourselves, so we don't have to be at war with each other. We can settle our differences in different ways, a much better way, a much more less violent way, a less destructive way, so we can move forward in a more positive and beneficial way, as I say. So I think all these things, whether it's wars or whether it's natural disasters or, you know, extreme weather conditions, they're pointing to areas. This is what needs to be done, like with the weather conditions, to like the recent earthquakes in Turkey. Half those buildings weren't even earthquake ready. You know, the corners had been cut, and that's why there's such a destruction there and such a loss of life. And the same, you know, with floods and things like that. You know, you got mud houses still being made of mud or inferior sort of building materials just get swept away. You know, those things have got to be addressed, so people can live in more substantial housing, you know, dwellings, and not shanty towns and tin huts and cardboard boxes or wooden huts. The same with the wildfires in Americas and that. I mean, in America, you know, it's still natural to build a house made of wood. And that's fine, okay, so that's your local material, but that's not really fire resistant, is it? And when you get, you know, the unexpected that happens, like the wildfires, you're going to get that total destruction of your home because it's made of wood. You know, I know over the years you do get treated wood in that, and it's supposed to be fire resistant, but when it's such an intensity as it was over the, you know, last summer and everything like that, it doesn't stand a chance. So, and I love these wooden houses, their cabins and everything. I love those things, you know. But you know, you got to think of where you are, and if you build it in the middle of a forest where they don't do fire breaks and things like that, you don't. You know, they change the rules, you know, they put in man-made rules instead of allowing nature to take its course, then you're going to get difficulties. You know, then you're going to get even flooding in those areas as well, of rivers and lakes and so on, burst their banks. It certainly makes you wonder whether you want to live by an ocean or by a lake, or even in the middle of a forest, which I've often dreamt about, you know, dreamed about living in the middle of a forest somewhere, you know, or up a mountain. Because you just don't know what's going to happen, do you? You know, so we are living in very turbulent times, but we can change it if we switch on and look at what these events are telling us. Why is the universe, why is spirit, why is source allowing these things to happen, or even causing these things to happen, if you like, you know, from that point of view? You know, it's because we have lessons to learn, and we need to learn those lessons. Otherwise, you know, come the mass extinction that's supposed to be coming up, we won't be around anymore. It's as simple as that, because we'll only add to that. We'll only add to the destruction. We won't be prepared. And if we start preparing now, instead of warring and squabbling over tracts of land and, you know, and squabbling about, you know, money, squabbling about trade deals and I don't want to do that because I'm doing that, and you know, and all this sort of playground stuff. We should be knuckling down, joining together, working together as one human race, which is what we are. One human race. It's only one race. It's the human race. We should be working together, knuckling down, seeing what we can do to prevent ourselves from being totally destroyed, totally wiped out, when that sixth mass extinction event does happen. And it is going to happen. We can't stop that. We might reduce our own effect, but we're not going to stop that. No, but we can slow things down and get a better breathing space. And that's what we all need right now, guys. A better breathing space. That's it for now, guys. Until next time, namaste.